All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. So yesterday, I did an episode with this guy, Nypatriot, and I hear a lot of people say oh, I know this stuff, and I never believe him, but he was so well versed. I was like that time when you meet a girl and you ask her to hang out the next day. So Nypatriot, thanks for coming on my show, dude.
That's awesome. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, yo, that just went smooth and it went great.
Yeah, dude.
You really rocked it. That was great.
I guess, I'm sure people have probably, heard you from your podcast, but so just, I guess, like a quick background of your background.
Okay. Well, basically I'm an ex-member of the Ordo Templi Orientis, which is a secret society that was originally started in Germany by Theodore Roos. And it's funny, I always forget this dude's name. And it was two people. They basically started it, and then eventually, and the OTO is basically an offshoot of the Freemasons.
Okay.
At the time when it was started, if you were a certain degree in Freemasons and came over to the OTO, you'd be eligible to be automatically a certain degree over there. So they acknowledged Freemasons for sure. Then eventually, the guy Theodore Roos ended up reading Aleister Crowley's Book of the Law and was like, oh my God, this guy's telling the secrets of the OTO. How did he know about us? So they get in touch with each other, and supposedly Crowley's like, I don't even think he really even knew who the guy was. And he's like, I said, no, and the guy believed him. And he's like, well, in that book, you're describing like the secrets of secrets, all the mysteries of occultism is in that book. So eventually Crowley became, he became in charge of the Ordo Templi Orientis. They handed it over to him. Now Freemasonry kind of, he ended up taking out a whole bunch of the degrees and just left them with, there's a 0, which is a Minerval, which is an honored guest. And then there's 12 other numbered degrees. Now in between there's like little add-ons. It's like maybe, the 4th degree, there's like an extra 1 or 2 add-ons you can do. There's that stuff. But he removed a bunch of the initiations because he had even said that he thought Freemasonry just had way too many. It was just ridiculous. There wasn't a need for all of them. So he knocked it down to that. And they weren't associated with Freemasonry anymore. It didn't matter what degree you were over there, or at least that's, what I know. I mean, maybe behind the scenes, there is a difference. If you're a certain degree up, who knows? But, on paper, that's what they say.
I never heard. So it's split. It kind of is an offshoot of upper levels of Freemasonry.
Well, I would put it. This is like a really good way to explain the difference between the OTO and Freemasonry.
Yeah,
I would say that when you start getting to the top of Freemasonry, like the very top, and this isn't like patting myself on the back or saying I'm better than. I would say that's kind of where the OTO kind of starts from and goes, because. Believe it or not, in the Freemasons, I'm not in it, but I have multiple friends that are, and one of them finally got to like some Royal Arc degree. I'm not even exactly sure. It wasn't until then he said that he could even talk about ceremonial magic. He says if he would have talked about it under, below that grade, people would have looked at him and he was probably crazy. So that shows you that they do, but not until later up. The OTO start off right away with ceremonial magic.
Right.
I mean, if you're joining the OTO, it's because that's what you want to do.
Right.
So it's a little bit different in that sense also.
Well, I think that makes sense because the Freemasons, they normal people back in the day, in our grandparents' age, would go into Freemason. If it's a brotherhood, if you're magic right away, you might scare a few people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly. One of my friends used to say all the time before he got to that degree and realized he could start getting into this stuff. He always used to say that Freemasonry is basically a bunch of old guys in sandwiches, and the sandwiches suck. He's like, that's all you can, just hanging out with a bunch of old rich dudes eating shitty food at the lodge.
So
it changed, according to him,
Well, so how did you, because you are so so many people say the kind of stuff that you say, but you clearly have all this, awesome knowledge. No, you're good, dude. So what, I guess, brought you in, or what were, are you allowed to talk about the things
there's plenty of things think I had even explained it on Deplorable Janet's show. I'm not trying to plug her on here.
Dude, she's great. You can plug her all you want.
But there's times when, in my opinion, that if you listen to the exact way they're telling you why you can't repeat something and what will happen if you do, in my opinion, if you really understand what magic is, they're really not telling you the truth to begin with. So if you were to repeat it, you're not telling the truth anyway. It's very, I could probably explain it later on.
Like a metaphor, kind of?
It's almost as like, well, all right, when you, at the initiations, I'm going to be totally honest with you, they do tell you like some real deep, insane secrets, but you will not know it because of the way you're wired to think. You legit will have to actually kind of like skew your vision on things to really pick up the secrets, which probably I would say 90% of the people in these secret societies don't do. I'm going to be totally honest with you. It is when you comes down to the actual real knowledge, it's very few. So if they're telling you you can't repeat this and you do, you're not even telling the truth anyway, because they're telling you in a way to tell you a lie, in a sense, if you get what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's kind of hard to explain, and it might have sounded silly.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So like, there's a lot of things I could repeat that really isn't an issue. Now, if I was to maybe turn around and start telling you exactly how I thought it meant, maybe, but I don't care, because I wouldn't be having my podcast, because like, I think that this stuff has gotten so blatant recently. It's grabbed a hold of so many people. I'm not trying to say like the great I am, or, God told me to do this, but I think as an individual who sees this stuff as being bad, and I left for that reason, I think it's just like almost as a duty that like I need to like let other people know like this is how they're doing it, because it's seriously fucking up both sides, of the country. Like it's really got its grips on both sides.
So what like bad things do you think like are?
Well, it's all, a lot of it, like, see, now for me, I'll go into it a little bit more. Maybe let me finish about how I actually.
Oh yeah, sorry, dude.
Before I start, yeah. It's real easy to find these places. Some people will think, oh, I'm talking trash, I'm making stuff up. It is really that easy to find these places. Like, if you wanted to join the OTO, you could just Google it, and you will find that they have a website, and they will show you where all their lodges, camps, or oases are. Same thing with like the Golden Dawn. Same thing with the Ashram Argentum. They'll tell you someone to contact. You can easily find these things online. It's not that hard for someone to actually join. I contacted, I had believed in magic. The reason I got into it is because I honestly did believe, from going down rabbit holes since like 2010, I've been into like conspiracy stuff. I, to myself, had believed that I really think that there is something to do with this that does influence and possibly control, like the mindset of humanity. I really did think it does that. And in my opinion, I was like, well, I need to figure out how to stay out of that. If it's real. I never went in with the intentions that I was going to like, control, or, for all negative reasons. It was really more of just like self-discipline. And, if you really actually see a lot of the practices, like the reason I chose the OTO is because it's not as regimented as I thought it would be, but it comes across as being very regimented. It shows you the exact, practices that they suggest, things that other people have gotten results from. They kind of give you like a guideline of what to do. And I said to myself, that interested me instead of other things like witchcraft or just other places. Very structured. So that's why I chose that. Now, throughout the time that I was going to the OTO, I can also say, and this is something I've actually never really even talked about on other shows. There was multiple reasons for me even being there at different times. I will say, as a ceremonial magician, if you still have the same mindset that you had when you first started, you haven't made any growth. Your ideas of what this stuff should be kind of always, growing or changing. You shouldn't be being stuck in the same train of thought. So for me, like when I first went, it was like because of the whole thing of like thinking that it, ruled the world. They're controlling a matrix, so to say. Eventually after that, it's kind of funny because when you get into that, you get into like magic, it's a lot of people all of a sudden seem to totally forget about those things. Like a lot of people stop being conspiracy theorists and almost just get really so focused on magic. You kind of forget about stuff that you believed a year or two prior. So like now I'm not really looking at it as like it could be, maybe it really isn't as controlling as it is. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm thinking maybe these secret societies really aren't like running the world. So then like I kind of stayed for that reason. And then realizing as you get into magic, I will say if you want, if someone decides to do this and they actually want to get like real results, you will not be able to do it without doing some sort of serious moral inventory on yourself. When you hear in magic about shadow work, that's exactly what that is. You got to take a look at the piece of shit of a person that you are inside. No, I'm dead serious. It's crazy. Yeah. You need to acknowledge that. And then you need to realize, why do I do this? Why do I get scared? Why do I get fearful? Why do I get angry? What beliefs was it that made me think that? Then why did I even get those beliefs? Who told me that? Was it school? Was it my parents? And then you will start to realize that, shit, like I really haven't had too many original thoughts actually ever. It's all been from other things telling me something, as a child. So that can get really deep. And I saw that as being something that would make me a better person. So I continued to stay doing stuff like that. I was like, that will make me a better person, and it will make changing the person who I am inside will automatically change the world around you. You'll look at it completely different. So I had started to think that's really what this stuff was all about. So that's another reason why I had stayed so long. But then at some point, something had happened when I started to get results that were things I was not even trying to do.
Damn.
Not even the reason that I wanted to do things.
What kind of results?
That I'll get into that. And that I'm going to tell you was shit that actually shook me to the core. And it legit scared me to my soul.
Oh, that sounds good, dude. You're building a lot of suspense here.
Yeah, but you know what the thing is that some people can blow it off as like, oh, this guy's just crazy and he's just making it up. But I mean, I'm telling the truth. I'm not delusional. I've never been on psych meds. Whatever. I'm just putting that all out there. But and then like that started to scare me, because then when you have, they'll say this in the Kabbalah. Some people have heard, when you start getting onto the top of the tree, you have like understanding and then wisdom. You can't mistake understanding for wisdom, and you can't, and vice versa. And it's not until you have an understanding and an experience will you actually have the knowledge of something. Mm-hmm. So when you start having these weird magical things happen, and you start to realize like how that, when you start trying to even figure out like, how is that even possible? And then when you kind of do, you almost have to be like, is this fucking serious? And then when you start really looking into it and realizing what it's all about, which we can get into, it's actually like pretty scary to me.
Damn, dude.
And it was something that I will say, I after I had stopped doing, because I automatically stopped practicing after like I had like maybe 3 or 4 of these experiences. I just stopped. I said, I can't do this. Uh-huh. I will say that after those experiences, I was never much of a very religious person, and I still aren't now. I mean, when I was younger, I was. Yeah, I could understand, or I could say, I think I have a much more deeper understanding of Jesus.
Damn, dude.
Because of these experiences. Because I honestly believe that in some way he kind of did too. And when you realize what real magic is, if you decide to not to be a piece of shit with it, that's going to be like amazing, because it's so easy once you realize what it is.
Damn, dude. You're building crazy suspense.
No, but what you can actually do to people.
Yeah.
So like, in my sense, I'm thinking like, was that really the last temptation of Christ? It was like, you know the truth and you chose not to be a piece of shit. Jeez. That is so hard to do with real magic. And that's why I think the world is getting to the point that it's getting at, because it's grabbing onto people's egos and they turn into, horrible people. And then you see what we see on the TV and the news and the radio and music. That's why we're seeing it, I think.
Jeez, dude. Are you gonna tell?
Yeah,
I need to know these
yeah,
experiences, dude.
So, I mean, I used to, in ceremonial magic, it's hard to explain, to get to certain things. I'm trying to think of the easiest way. I would focus a lot on more of actually like working on myself. Like I said, I didn't do so much of like an outside experience. I wasn't trying to make somebody else do something. I wanted to change myself from within so then I could accomplish what I wanted to do. Just like anybody else that prays to God and says, please, God, please give me the courage to do something. That I, give me the strength to do it. I need your help. It's something along those lines is basically the type of stuff that I would do. And I worked a lot either with God or angels, or if I did do any type of, other pantheons, it was normally just like Egyptian gods. But I would use like ones that were known to be very close to God in that pantheon. I worked a lot with Isis and Hathor and Thoth, and those were like very like upper kind of like experiences, very close to God, like the knowledge of, and I guess not realizing the type of energies I was working with. I think that's eventually what kind of brought me to where I ended up, which actually was another thing that really bothered me about the OTO, because they're not really that structured, and they were just like, here, have at it, play with it, fuck yourself up and learn from from there afterwards, and it's like, if this shit's really what it is, I don't think people should just be like, have at it and just play with it. That's a very dangerous thing. So that was another reason why I was very aggravated. But you eventually get to this point where I was doing my rituals, and then sometimes, I would go into these meditations, or you would go into like these things where you would like, oh, I'd focus on my chakras, you focus on them, you picture the colors, you bring it down, you just keep doing that. There's a thing called the the middle pillar, which is like a golden dawn ritual. It's basically picturing like white light coming into you and then doing all these different things. It's almost like chakras also. I had started to use the Egyptian version where you're just basically saying the same thing, but in Egyptian. And I started using that a lot. And I started practicing that often. And there was just one time, and I don't even know if that ritual, that prayer itself really had anything to do with it. It could have just really been the visualizations. Because in magic, believe it or not, you're going to also need to be able to like really be able to close your eyes and actually start to picture stuff. Like there's like a lot of the basics in meditation. They'll be like, close your eyes, picture a red triangle, or a blue star. These are all things so you can actually really start to visualize stuff with your eyes closed. So even if you wanted to do it astrally, supposedly, if the person even is really astral, so it could just have been, like I'm saying, just the visualizations that really made it happen. But at some point it started happening to where I was bringing the light down into me, and then I would bring it back up. And that's like kind of going to hit your top of your chakra, the one on your head. So I was just practicing that a lot over and over again. And then eventually I just started having these experiences where it was like I'd have like a pop in my head and I was not here anymore. It felt like my whole body, like, first off, it would get to the point to where I did these meditations. It would feel like everything went pitch black. Everything went deafening, as if it was like snowing out. When it's like deafening silence, it just seems like really quiet when it's snowing. I got like that feeling. And everything would go like completely deeply black. And it would almost feel like your whole body is getting pulled apart. And you're just part of like everything. There's actually, I think it's called the DMT spirit molecule. It's an old thing on DMT. You can probably find it on YouTube.
Yeah, I think
a lot of some of their experiences and the way they just try to describe this stuff is very close to the stuff that I've experienced. And that's, without drugs, So now that happens. And then as that's happening, then basically like, then you hear like almost like a pop in your head. And now I am in a complete it's almost like I'm in a HD TV where I can actually see like colors. shadows, depth, you know, and it feels like I'm there, but it's almost as if I'm like this rotating camera that I can just like go around all over the place and like look at my view and see where I am, like in a different way. And it was really fucking weird. And it was like the most like peaceful, blissful experience I've ever had. It was like absolute, like amazing. And to me, I had felt like that, you know, one of the experiences was I had felt that where I was looked like, I'm not sure if it was, but it could have been Egypt. Now I felt as if I was it was really weird. I had this feeling that I was in a pyramid, but for some reason, the part of the wall was gone. And it was like kind of close to the top. So it was like this open wall in the shape of a triangle, like looking out upon the desert. And I just see like this gold sand everywhere. And it was just like amazing. And then like I turned and I'm thinking like, well, I want to see what I look like here. Mm-hmm. Like that's the thought I'm thinking. So I kind of move around and it's like I'm looking at myself now and I was not who I was.
Damn.
I looked like some kind of like it is some sort of Egyptian, whatever it was. I can't even point my finger out and say, oh, I was so-and-so because I want to boost my ego. No, I have no idea what that was, but it wasn't me. Damn. And then not too long after that, I basically, it's like all of a sudden I woke up to jumping in my seat. Like I almost like came off my ass out of the seat. And I was just like, yo, what the hell just happened? And that like kind of like freaked the living shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, all right. So like I still continued and I was just like, I told a couple of people that I was friends with in the OTO about that because that was prior to me leaving. And a lot of them were just like, oh, yeah, just write that down in your journal. It's probably some like cool, you know, weird astral thing or some blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right. Maybe I'm making a little bit more out of it than I did, you know? So then not too long ago, a few days later, I'm doing like the same type of, I've done like my ritual work. I'm going to like sit in my chair and like do meditations. And I figured, oh, let me see if I can focus on, you know, those chakras and maybe do what I did and see if I can get another experience, you know, even though it scared me, I got to do it again, you know?
Yeah.
So I do that. And eventually at some point, it was really weird. I almost kind of got like that pop again. But for some reason, I felt like it was like something like on the left side of my head. And this is going to sound weird, but you know what a zeotrope is?
Mm.
You ever remember those old things that like you spin them and you can like watch like a cartoon story? And you just
yeah.
It was almost like I saw something like that, like on the left side of my head spinning backwards. And I was like watching shit going in reverse.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden it's like I get the pop. And then it's like I'm like, where the fuck am I? I'm like, yo, this looks really weird. It almost felt like to me like I was inside something. It was like kind of like fucking awkward. And so now like I'm sitting in my chair. Now, there's some like poses that are recommended that you can do in ritual magic if you want to do like meditations. And one of them's really easy. It's called the God pose. You just basically sit there with your back straight, your hands and your arms on your legs, and you just sit there and hold it as long as you can, you know? It's actually a lot harder than it sounds, but it was the easiest one for me to do. So that's what I would do. So now that happens. And then I kind of get that pop. And like I said, I'm not understanding like what I'm looking at. It just seemed off, but like this experience still was very like peaceful. And I was like, like it felt like blissful again. So I'm starting to think the same thing. Let me like kind of maybe see if I can look at the situation from another angle to see like what's going on. And like I'm seeing myself now in the chair, but it looks like I'm glowing, which is weird because like that wasn't what I was just looking at before. And then I almost kind of see my body twist a little bit. Everything disappears. And now I look like I guess if you were to kind of grab my legs and pull them up, you would kind of look like a baby laying in the womb, right? With the way your legs might be, you know, crossed and stuff. And that's exactly what I was almost like watching, is that my body glowing kind of bent into that position. And now all of a sudden I went back into the original state that I was in. And now I'm like, what the fuck? I'm actually in the womb. Yeah. And that is an actual big, like I mentioned yesterday on your show, that is like an attainment or a type of thing in magic. That's why sometimes they show like Lady Gaga and her egg, or sometimes these people disappear for a few days, is because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go back to their, in themselves in the womb or even farther, because they believe at that point you might be able to reprogram yourself. So that happened. That like kind of freaked me out, because now when that happened, all this shit starts like rushing into my head. Now I hate this phrase. You hear it on a lot of like new age and weird stuff. Oh, I got a download. I hate that saying, but I'm going to say straight up, I really have no other way to explain it, but I kind of felt something like that, where it was just like all these things started clicking and popping in my head. And I was like, oh my God, this means that, that means this. Like things started coming together. Once you start having these experiences, then you know exactly what you're looking at when people might be saying things that other people don't understand. Is because those people have never had the experience to really understand what somebody's saying or even trying to portray. You can put a lot of weird stuff, like David Lynch, Twin Peaks. That is the most occulted thing I have ever watched in my life. But some people are just like, that guy's just weird shit. You just don't understand it because you haven't had the experience for him to show you what he's talking about. So now all these experiences start adding things up in my head, and I'm just like, this is getting a little weird. Eventually it came to a point where I had another experience like that, but I really didn't understand. It was just more of like in a state of blackness. And it just felt like for like a long time, it just felt like I was just being pulled everywhere, and I didn't have much of a visualization. And then it started to slowly go away. And like when I would meditate, I would just put one candle in front of me, maybe 6 feet away from the chair that I'm sitting at. Now at this time, I'm sitting there and I'm still meditating, and I start seeing flashing. Now I'm starting to think like, oh fuck, maybe something's happening now. Like it's starting to come, like maybe I was going to make something happen again. And then it went away. I started flashing again. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? So I opened up my eyes and I'm looking and I'm like, what the fuck? So then I go back. It takes me a couple of minutes. I start to get back into that state again. And I'm focusing on my third eye really hard. And if anybody that listens to your stuff happens to, do stuff on chakras, other people may think it's crazy, but people who really do practice on it, they will say you can actually feel it. Like if you really focus on doing chakra work, you will feel some weird spinning fucking vibration in that spot if you know where to find it, right? I started to feel that in my third eye. And then I see the flashing again. Or then I'm like, wait, or is that flickering? So I open up my eyes and I'm like, if that's the fucking candle flame, it's just going to fucking blow my mind.
Oh, yeah.
So now I kept my eyes open and just started focusing on my, my third eye, on that chakra, and the flame starts fucking going berserk, dude.
Damn, dude.
So then I'm like, nah. I'm just thinking like, I'm hoping it is,
Yeah.
I'm gangster, I really did. I'm thinking this is all me, just my ego talking to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let me get up. I go, I'm like, all right, I don't even have the air conditioner on. There's no windows open. Nothing can be making this flame move. So now I'm like standing above it and I'm like, all right, fuck you. I'm going to try this again. Thing starts flickering to the point to where it went out.
Jeez, dude.
That was the one that scared the living shit out of me, because now I realized I was able to do something outside of myself.
Yeah.
And knowing that you can accomplish that, you better be a real damn good fucking person inside to know that you're not going to use it for the wrong purposes.
Right. Yeah.
So
I got like a few questions, but I'll let you let me know when you're ready.
So that scared me. And then, and then just, besides that, I'll make it real quick. Some of this stuff I don't even think I've said on anybody else's show. So you're getting a
sweet, dude.
Yeah,
sweet.
Because
groundbreaking.
to the point to where there's a lot of things that I never wanted to repeat about because I wanted to keep hidden who I was. And I think at some point I'm going to have to just at least let that go. And, depending on what I'm wanting to do to try to reach people, maybe do lives and stuff, I may have to just take down anything out of my shows that maybe I shouldn't have said. You know what I'm saying? And then I'll feel a lot more comfortable actually showing who I am. Because like in one of my first 2 episodes, there is shit that I really probably shouldn't have repeated. you know, that makes it to where I have to worry. But I think I can reach a lot more people just by taking out those few things and letting people find stuff for themselves, you know. One of the few things that happened to me is that after that last experience, I went to kind of start doing it again, but it was like not with that intent. I'm like, I just felt like off. I think because I was shooken by the thing, you know, shooken by the whole experience. Is like, I got to get rid of this fear. I got to remove this. You know, now I'm doing banishing rituals to try to, like, you know, remove whatever anxiety and stuff I might have. And I was like, let me just meditate. Let me ground myself. And then it almost starts to happen again. And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, yo, I'm not even trying to like get to that point. Because it almost feels like William Ramsey told me that the son of Sam said this on either his show or my show.
Yeah.
And this blew my mind. And I told him I'm gonna have to start using this. When they call it like, and they call it the abyss, crossing over to the abyss. This is what I believe happened. Even the son of Sam would say it felt as if you were like the ocean, like pulling you in. It's almost as you can feel like yourself being sucked somewhere out the back of your head. No lie.
Dude.
No lie. Yeah. You can feel it come. You can, and it's really wild. So that was like starting to repeat a lot. And then like, I don't know if it was like a bad experience, but like it happened. And in my head, I swear I heard something like yell at me, get out. And after that happened, I woke, snapped, it woke me up. And I literally felt like my body was like being compressed. It felt like, it almost felt like I had too much, like, it almost felt like that I had energy coming out of me, but something was like, no, you need to stay there. And it felt like the weight of the moon was on top of me. It was just ridiculous. Like, I don't know if it was like this feeling of like insane gravity or whatever it was killing me. It hurt. It would go away on and off for a few days, to the point, I think by the second day, I went to the hospital because I didn't even know what was wrong with me anymore. It literally scared the shit out of me. So now I ended up being there for 3 days. They had no idea what was wrong. But the one thing that was weird, my right pupil was 4 millimeters bigger than my left one, which was never like that. Now, I would have known it was like that because I'm a fan of David Bowie and his pupils are fucked up like that. So I would have been like, oh, well, David Bowie's got that. So do I. Look, you know, I would have been bragging about it. I'm sure, whatever. So my eye was never like that. And my blood hemoglobin level was up to 19.6, which is ridiculously fucking high. Out of nowhere. I had nothing else wrong with me. Not one thing. The doctors were confused. They said, maybe it's migraine. They gave me one thing of saline, and then they gave me another thing of blood. They had to thin out my blood. Kept me for a few days. It kind of just slowly went away on its own, and they let me go home. So then you even start wondering about, like, when you start hearing about certain things with ceremonial magic and maybe some of the conspiracies that some people don't want to look at, I start to wonder, well, what was it about my eye and what was it about my blood that these experiences changed? And not that I'm like pushing the whole adrenochrome idea, but that had led me to believe that maybe there is something behind it. I don't know. Now, in ceremonial magic, and this is my belief, is what I had experienced. In the tree of life, the top 3 spheres, they say that that is not possible in human form. You cannot do that as long as you're in the flesh, as long as you're here on earth. That is something beyond our, body. You can't do that. But that doesn't mean that your spirit can't. True magic, in my opinion, and part of it, especially after covering the gateway experiences, which was a CIA type of experiment, which I covered on the Occult Rejects. Even after looking at that, I had realized what I think it really is that, and as crazy as this sounds, you are able to leave your body, I think, with your soul. Once you are able to tap into a certain vibratory rate that is the same vibratory rate as the earth, you at that point can collect out of the time-space continuum. And then you basically are able to start kind of tapping into, in my opinion, the black hole that we're actually in. Because that's what I would say, that our actual existence is part of a black hole. You can find government scientists, like we found on the CIA website, stating the exact thing. You will see specific shapes that might look very familiar to stuff in the Kabbalah or planetary magic. You'll start seeing certain numbers, 10 to the negative 33 degrees vibratory rate you need, 33 degrees vibratory rate. You know what I'm saying? You start getting symbols like Aquarius that are showing you the time and space continuum when you're going in and out of it. If you vibrate fast enough, you will just remain in it. Just weird stuff like that. So then you start wondering like, well, what is this whole thing about magic? And when you start thinking about your experience and then start reading some scientific stuff, and then when you start looking at some occult stuff and start seeing how these stories are implying certain things, it really actually would make the most sense, as much as it sounds crazy to someone else, that when you're crossing the abyss, maybe you aren't 100% removed, but part of your soul is tethered to your body, but you are leaving your body. And then when as there's an old saying, when the fire has left the body, the blood goes cold. So maybe the spirit, which would be explained in ceremonial magic as fire is the same thing as spirit. Maybe when that leaves the body, that's why your blood has an issue when you come back. Some little things like that. As corny as those little phrases sound, when you start having experiences, you're like, wow, that fucking phrase everybody uses to explain something so silly actually makes 100% sense in another situation.
Can I ask? So
now you can ask away. So
sweet,
what
dude.
I was getting at is that is my experience with it. That's what I think happens. There still is a lot more into it that I could get into at some other point, but to really where I could even start pointing to certain parts of your body that are actually symbols and magic, which would blow people's minds away. But
damn, dude. Well, so like, how does you think that there's that? Because you kind of brought up like the crossover between the occults and like spies. Like, do you know that? Like,
John,
like intelligence.
John D. I think he may have been one of the first ones. He was used by Queen Elizabeth. Wait, did you even do an episode on him?
I just talked about him in my one like history.
I think I remember one time. Yeah, I remember you bringing him up.
Yeah.
I think I heard yours right after I did mine. I was like,
oh, it's funny, dude.
Somebody else put that out too.
Yeah. But so do you think that just like set a precedent? Like, because it's always.
I think I went through like John D. Crowley, Jack Parsons for sure. I mean, come on, the guy was working with the government.
Right. I just didn't know if it was like the chicken or the egg in your take. Like, did the occult was always like in this? They used it for it, or how about like this? Like occult and technology. Like they seem to get crossed pretty close, right?
Yes.
So what's like your take on, do you think it's like you need both, like technology is?
I think they're going hand in hand. In my honest opinion, as crazy as this sounds, I think technology is actually us using occultism and not even knowing
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because like it's a lot of things you taught, like those experiences. It seems like
some quantum computer that I think they're talking
about. Right. Yeah.
My boy on the Occult Rejects with me, Lux, was like looking into that, and he's like, there's stuff in here that they're like specifically spacing things from each other in a scale version of the planets.
Damn.
He's like, you tell me this isn't involved in occultism. I said, damn right it is, dude.
Right.
So I think it goes hand in hand.
Okay.
I definitely believe that I think that the CIA has been involved, at least in the OTO, for a long time. Now, I had a guest on. I could even maybe hook you up with him after the show. You can check his stuff out. He thinks, in his opinion, that they were a part of it from the way beginning.
Damn.
So who knows?
Yeah. I mean,
but if they weren't, I by far believe they are now. Because, one of the things I'll try to touch on this real quick and not drag it out too long. One of the other reasons why I left is because they do definitely push a certain ideology with like politics. It's very, very, very extremely liberal, very leftist. One of their Zoom meetings, the last one that I ever attended, and that was the definite one, regardless of other things that I didn't like about the place. This was like, the last straw for sure. they started promoting even like Antifa and BLM, like on the Zoom meetings that I was doing. And I'm like, you're not even supposed to, and you're not allowed. Technically, as an organization, we're not even allowed to be doing that. So why are you doing this? No, we're not even supposed to advocate for anybody else except for us. So when they started doing that, I was like, oh, this really is pushing a leftist ideology. And in my opinion, I'm going to say it, and I'm not saying it like an arrogant or I'm better than, but and I've said it on Janet's show and I'm saying it here, if you are of the liberal mind, you will get nowhere in ceremonial magic. Nowhere. You will get zero real results. So why do you want your society to be filled with all those types of people? Because they're easy to control. They'll never really understand what you're really doing. And now you can use them, manipulate them to push your agenda and your ideology. So basically you have a very small part of people, again, in these societies at the top that know the truth. It's almost as like another pyramid.
Right.
And you just got, you know, who you're going to let know what, and who you're not going to tell anything to, that now you can use for whatever twisted things you want to do at the top in your initiations.
Oh, here, I got that. This
That's probably segueing into it, right?
Yeah. Well, so I want to touch, so two things, like, do you think that pushing of that mindset is to like remove religion out of that problem? And then do you think, it's like a two-part question, do you think by them removing, you know, God, to bring like a manifestation of like alien God, like an alien, you know, like how they push that? Not saying like the OTO does, but what's your like take on that?
That's pretty funny. I think, because somebody I just said that somewhere else too. Okay, well, first off, I'm going to say I think the whole alien thing, I think that might even be a little off. I think a lot of people may think that that's something, my honest opinion, a lot of it is not like real UFOs, like if it's an actual plane or whatever.
Right.
I don't think it's a ship with little green men in it.
Right.
I'll be telling you that right now. I honestly think it's like as the veil is like being peeled open a little bit. As crazy as that sounds, or it's something taking a peek on what's going on here, at least. You know what I'm saying? But in my opinion, I think when it comes to the OTOs, like what their agenda is, I think, see, when they make it very easy and very open for people to come there and join, because you really can join with any form. All right, I could be a Satanist. I could be into Egyptian gods. I could be into Norse gods. I could be into Celtic stuff. I could be a Wiccan, you know. We could all join the OTO because, you know, we're not really telling you, do your will, you know, and we're not going to tell you what to do. As you move up, that's going to change, you know, because then after the 4th degree, you don't go anywhere after that unless somebody asks you. The first 4 degrees in Minerval, you can ask, sign paperwork. You can ask to do that on your own. They're not going to go anywhere until the 5th. Now, the 4th degree is basically a perfected magician. So now from 5th degree, all the way up to 12, what do you want to tell me what that's all about? Because if you're already a perfect magician, I guess the other ones must be some sort of, specific belief or an agenda. I mean, because what's the point now?
Yeah, right.
No. And from like some of the things that I have seen for the higher in those degrees, in my opinion, you better know what real magic is if you're, doing what that book says. And in my opinion, probably most of them won't know still. So it's just like very weird. It's like, I just don't understand. It doesn't make sense. And, I think like they use it to manipulate people. And also I think their thing is that they're very big on egregores. Now, there's a guy, James Wasserman. He was a big dude in the OTO, high up there. Was out, spoke for the OTO a lot. He wrote a book on egregores. So you can't even discredit that the OTO doesn't use them. All right. It's basically as if you had a bunch of people trying to create one entity to do a job or a task for you. Right. There's things in magic called servitors, which would be like something I could create, and I could be like you would create a design, you create a sigil, you'd create a name for it, you sit there and you could write down a page worth of exact specific details of what you want this thing to do. And then when you go to create it, do what, work with whatever energies you need to work with that you think goes along with this thing, and then create it. But you're doing that with just multiple people now, all focused on the same intent, create this one thing and it goes out there, and it's almost like, do you ever hear that expression when like people are acting crazy, you're doing stupid stuff, you're like, oh, it must be something in the air, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost as if that's what that is. It's this mindset that's just going and creeping across brains, and people that are like aren't open enough or easily used are just controlled by it. It's as wild as that sounds, but that's really what it is. It's almost like a creeping mindset that just creeps across people and just fucks with them and do this, act like this, whispers in their ears. It's pretty, and I feel that is a huge thing what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I think that's
like a virus, dude.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at it. I mean, you got, I mean, I hate to pick on them, but I mean, you got Antifa and BLM. I mean, look at how these people are being triggered so emotionally. They're not thinking with their left. They're fully stuck in their left-hand side of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
All a bunch of emotions and fears. And I think a lot of that is being done on purpose, through TV, drugs, media,
right.
So, and seeing that happen, like I said, was one of the reasons why, like, I was like, I can't sit back, watch this stuff and knowing exactly what I'm looking at without trying to at least tell some people that want to listen.
Yeah. How about have you ever, I know those are your experiences, but have you ever like felt something from the other? Because that's what I like have I think like I don't know if there's outer space or whatever, but I have this feeling like the aliens or whatever, or like demons or other dimension beings.
Yeah, well, that's part of the magic too. Like, all right, if I would have continued to keep on practicing, that's exactly what it would have been like the next thing for me to do.
I see.
Be going out there, I may have really have just like kind of like maybe cracked open the abyss, stuck my head out a little bit.
I see. Okay.
Just peeked around. I was like, oh, okay, this is what it's all about. Real magic would be like, now I'm sticking my body out there, I'm grabbing onto something, I'm pulling that motherfucker back in with me, and now I'm going to use that, hopefully, if it doesn't use me, to do something,
I see. And have you met people like that, maybe are like you, that left, like they have lasting, like it would seem like that would be tough on like the psyche, or you would think, right? Or like
there was one I had one friend who left because he kind of noticed the bullshit. He realized it was a leftist ideology. He left. He also thought it was pretty much basically satanic. So he left. I had another friend who left because of the politics. Now I did have a female friend from the lodge. One of the few that I did speak to, because I believe that she actually she's very smart girl. She knew what she was doing, and she wasn't of. I don't know how to say this. A lot of women in the OTO can be very sexualized, and I wasn't trying to be all about that. I was just trying to, stick with magic. So this was one that I knew that was like there exactly for the reason I was, to learn. So she had practiced. She was very into it as much as I was. And she almost started to have the same experiences at me as I did. But for some reason, instead of like 3 or 4 days of me feeling like shit, it took her about 9 months of like just trying not to wanting to kill herself and feeling the same physical effects I had. Now, the thing was, she was very smart. She was very good at what she did. I respected that. I didn't respect the types of things she worked with, though. So now looking at maybe the things that she worked with was not something I would want to mess with. Maybe is the reason why she felt like shit for 9 months and me only 3 days.
That's interesting.
She was very big into old Babylonian and Sumerian stuff.
Interesting.
Into the demon sides of that. She was very big into that. But she was very smart at what she did. So sometimes I would ask her questions even about like angels and stuff because she knew a lot.
From my read, it seems like smart people, I think mainstream, or like you see like weird like goth kids in high school and that, but after reading about Jack Parsons, who was obviously a brilliant guy, talking to you, you're very great at speaking. It seems like it's like a science, right? That's what it's like, uncovering information.
Yeah. Yo, that's why I have to say that's there was a lot of reasons why I never got into Enochian. There was like a lot of different types of magic I could have gotten into, but I very much I loved the Kabbalah, because it's almost like it's like you're a detective trying to put the clues together, and it's like you get very, like you said, like it's almost, and then it gets like scientific, and it's very, you have to think, you know what I'm saying? You have to think
Yeah.
out the box. You have to constantly, you know, and yeah. So that was huge on me. So
That's just
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Because like I remember like those sigils and everything's like so exact, like for Parsons
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Like it seemed it's like it's literally like, and they tried different things or had to say things a certain way. Did you have that experience as well, or no? More just meditating.
No, that's what, see, that was the thing that freaked me out, is because like I could say like when I was casting circles or like doing my
Yeah.
actual rituals, drawing out whatever I'm doing, I never really had I mean I had one. Now, okay, now I can say this was actually the first experience I had that made me think the shit was real. I was working with Horus, someone that I normally wouldn't have worked with. It's a very, not that I have anything against him, it's that I'm already an Aries. I'm already an Aries myself.
Okay.
So like I knew, and very typical one, I can be very hot-headed. I can be very, you know, I'm always right. You know, you're just stubborn. I can
Right.
be aggressive when I think, you know, I can get very passionate about things. And Horus was very of like a martial god. He was associated with Mars. If you're doing planetary magic, that's more fire. So I was just like, I really don't need to work with him enough because I think I have enough of it on my own. You know what I'm saying? So it
Yeah.
was like it wasn't a type of energy that I really aspired to because I already thought I kind of had enough. Why focus on something I'm already good at? Let me focus on something I'm not good at.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I only worked with them a few times, but the first time I did it, I will say like the room got extremely warm. Um, it felt very thick. By the time I was done, I went into the bedroom because I would do my stuff out in the living room, and my wife was in the bedroom, and she's looking at me, and she's like, "What the fuck did you do out there?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You are drenched, and your eyes are like red as hell." Like, she's like,
Jeez.
"You look like you just smoked a blunt or something," you know, or some shit. Like, I was like, "What?" So I went in the mirror, and she was right. I mean, I was drenched. The whole back of my shirt was like pretty much dripping, and my eyes were completely bloodshot. So that was a weird
Yeah.
experience. But I believe, like, you know, I was like, well, I was working with like a fire type of energy, you know, maybe that, you know, so that kind of
Yeah.
like sold me on it a little bit, saying like, yeah,
Yeah.
stuff is true, you know.
Dude, there's definitely something there. Like we are, you know, like I think that your evidence that like it doesn't sound weird, any of things, because there's at least I don't know, dude. It's just the we know so little, dude, and we can only see like, you know, that visible light spectrum. Like there has to be.
Yeah, I have I really should put you in touch with this one dude, the same guy I was telling you about before. Because I think he's experienced with Enochian magic, nothing I ever fooled around with. There's a lot of people that say that that stuff does tie in with the UFOs.
Mm,
So, you know, there was like certain rituals that Parsons did in certain
yeah.
areas that UFOs all of a sudden
Right.
became big. And that was kind of with Enochian magic.
Well, he did like the.
Crowley did some kind of Enochian stuff over where Area 51 is now,
Yeah.
you know, and I think there's been stuff done overseas by other famous people that aliens, you know, UFOs popped up around the time they did that too. So
Yeah.
it
It was
almost
like a
like, well,
year
what's going
after
on here?
Parsons did
Yeah.
the Babylon working and Kroll and that he
Yes.
opened something and it didn't close.
Yes. See, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it's
Part of it.
there's something because like you're a smart guy. He's you know, all these people that do it, they're not dumb people. So that's like my theory. Like if there it really didn't do anything, not saying like prayer doesn't do anything, but you don't get like an immediate you know, if I when I pray to God, I don't, you know what I mean? Like unless you maybe I'm doing it wrong, but I never feel God like, you know, response, right? But
Oh, I know
really,
exactly
but
what
you're
you're saying.
like
I know
these
exactly what you're
you and other people, they're getting a response because it's a lot of work to do this. Like you're not just watching TV and you know what I mean? Like you're
saying. No,
meditating, there's energy.
it is a lifestyle. If you're going to be like, you know what, I'm going to do this, to be totally honest with you, that is like a complete lifestyle change that you are going to have to commit to in order to actually get any results. And it's going to have to be for years, unless you just happen to be a gifted person already, maybe. You know,
Hmm.
I do believe maybe some people might be prone to maybe being a little bit more open or
Oh.
being able to open their third eye a little bit more.
Hmm.
Because then again, like that's a part of what I believe, you know, some of the secrets are too. It
And
has to
that,
do with like your eyes and your actual brain.
right.
You're actually, you are in a sense actually creating change within those things, the way, you know, against the way they would normally work to experience some of the things you're having.
And then my last question I want to do is we see like the Super Bowl rituals and all these, and now you mentioned Twin Peaks. Do you think that is
Oh,
it
well,
just like, is it just a ritual or is there a purpose behind these
I
things?
think some of them I think are rituals, some of them I think it's almost as in like, all right, Katy Perry.
Yeah.
This is really the last one that I remember really watching that I was like picking stuff out. And then I think there was one, I forgot the band that played. Let's stay with Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Her coming in on the Beast. She was the Scarlet Whore. That's
Right.
exactly what she was doing. She was the Scarlet Whore. She was either showing attainment of herself, saying that, like, I know what this experience is. I have reached this. I know what Binah is. I know what Scarlet Whore is. It's showing just basically her puffing her chest, saying like, yeah, I'm a magician, or, I'm a witch, or whatever it is. Or, I mean, in my opinion, I think it was more of that, but it was kind of like telling like the story of the Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
But, and that I'm going to say, and one thing I want to leave too before we're done is a lot of sexual stuff in occultism is not sexual at all. A lot of stuff that they write down that they're going to put in sexual, connotations is to, well, one, most of the people in the OTO are going to be like, oh yeah, sex. Yeah. Because they're all handcuffed anyway to sexuality. So they're not going to get anywhere. So they're going to see sex. Now, some person that like you might be like, oh, here comes that sexual shit. And you're just going to see sex because let's say you're just trying to investigate it.
Right.
But it's really not. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to put it this way, and I'm not trying to get vulgar. Let's say your third eye. Let's say it's, how sometimes it's depicted as being a vertical eye above your forehead.
Yeah.
Now the OTO Laman is in that shape. Same thing. Same shape. A cat's eye.
Right.
A lizard eye.
Right.
Now,
interesting.
you were to think of that being a vagina.
Right.
And opening it up. Wouldn't it almost look like the same thing?
Right. Yeah.
Same shape.
That's
but
wild.
You're just looking at it as a vagina, but it's actually trying to tell you something else. Even the whole penetration point is actually telling you a whole other story.
Damn, dude.
It's disguised in sex, so people see sex and think it's horrible, horrible Satanists, horrible perverts. Well, I mean, which probably are anyway. But I'm saying, but that's what, like, and I'm not putting down Jesus at all, but like the Jesus freaks Bible thumb, people who are like really out to get them, they're seeing the sex and nothing else.
Yeah.
And then people in the OTO who are just a bunch of heathens, basically, that's all they're going to see too. So now you have like maybe a handful of people that might be like, wait, that looks like that. Another way to keep it secret.
Damn, dude.
Yes.
That was a good one to end on. That I saw where you're going, like where I was like, damn, he's right. It is like that.
Yes.
Dude. So where can people listen to your show? Because, dude, you got so much, like, a wealth of knowledge.
Unfortunately, I've probably done better on your show that I recorded with us, and this one just.
Oh, dude, you were so. I was just like zoned in listening, dude. You're a great storyteller, dude.
Thank you. I do have very, like, on my specific show, the Nypatriot, I've covered a few pedo things because I do believe that does go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. And I do, I've started having guests on, but I do have a few episodes where I do go very much more in depth on trying to explain this stuff to the public. I haven't finished the series. It's probably going to be a couple more episodes, but I'm trying to like put, and again, I'm going to say this, I'm not trying to teach anybody anything. I'm just trying to show you enough that when I get to where I get, people will understand where I came from. It's like David Icke. He's got to do an 8-hour show for people to even comprehend where he's going.
That's true. He does.
So I'm going to have to do probably like 10 or 12 episodes so people can follow me. But that is the point of what I was trying to do on my occult series, was to show everybody everything. Unfortunately, we didn't get to the fingers and the bananas, the rabbit stuff. I mean,
we'll do it again. Don't worry, dude.
Yeah, I was going to get into that eventually because that all starts to point to the same things, and then it starts to point to parts of your body, and it just gets crazy. But I needed to show like a foundation to get you there. Dude, that I do a lot more intense on my show.
Perfect, dude.
Now on the Occult Rejects, I have another podcast with me and my boy Lux. That one is a lot more of like doing topics like the CIA, the OTO, the Gateway Experience, how the CIA was involved in that. We did a thing on Nazax. I mean, how easy could that have been? It was an easy video to go in, but then we even did things showing in his video specific numbers going along with specific books and rituals. So like we do like point out to stuff. So that one, it would be a lot more if you wanted to see how occultism is being used in society. the Occult Rejects. If you want to learn exactly what they're really doing, that would be my show, I guess.
Awesome, dude.
You can check us
Dude.
both on BitChute, YouTube, Gab TV.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, dude, it was an honor to have you on.
Yes.
Really, dude. I was like,
had a great
it was
time.
like a great story, dude. I was just listening. That was awesome. So
I'm going to be totally honest with you. That was probably the best one I ever did.
I love it, dude. I love it. Sweet.
When I first came out, I was on 2 other shows, and I was very much still resentful towards the OTO. So I was almost basically coming out like Alex Jones, like flipping out. I actually was able to sit here and voice my stuff. I think
dude, it was good. It was good. So I'll probably put it up like Wednesday, but thanks for being on.
Yeah.
Send me any links in the email that you want posted in the
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had a great time, and we'll do it again for sure.
All right, dude. Have a great weekend. All right.
You too. Thank you.
See you, man.